All right, Rip City Drive with the Godfather and Chad. Hope you're enjoying your Tuesday afternoon. The Kraken just finished their season opener, and joining us in studio now to kick off the show is our good friend from the law offices of Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE. It's our good friend Colin Amos. What's up, my friend?
Good to be here. Good to see you guys.
Boy, how was that weekend of college football we just came off of with big upset
Wow.
after big upset after big upset?
It was great.
Man, Vandy taking out Alabama, and then the students walking the goalposts 3 miles down Broadway to dump it in the river.
I've heard that that they're selling all sorts of pieces, and they're going to milk this for a long time. Why wouldn't you? You know,
you got to do it.
I was telling Chad this earlier. Now, if I were betting college football and I saw that game come off the way it did, I don't know that I'd ever bet college football again. If Vandy can beat Alabama, what do I know about college football, right?
That's right. And that's why there's so much variance in college football. And I do a lot of teasing in bets. You never want to tease college football for that reason, because you move a line there and then, 20 or 30 points go out the window just because of an upset. And they got Tennessee, and you don't know. The over-unders are crazy. The spreads are crazy. You don't know what's going to – Arkansas, beats Tennessee, and they hold them to 3 points, 6 points in the first half. Crazy.
Well, as a UW grad, did you find any redemption in the victory over Michigan at all?
Yeah, I was sitting in the crowd in Houston last year for that Michigan game, and Brock Heward was just down for me, and we're all just struggling to get through that game. It was ugly, so absolutely felt some redemption, although, all new coaching staff, all new players. I think we had one returning starter from last year's team on the Huskies. But, yeah, that was a nice, calm beatdown of Michigan this year.
What I'm seeing with Washington is with Jed Fish, their new coach, you can tell that with all the new players, they're slowly getting better week by week by week.
Yeah.
We're seeing progress there, which I think is important with a new program and a new coach and a bunch of new players.
I think he's doing an incredible job. That's what we expected when he came from Arizona, that we were thinking, okay, this is a good quality coach and great staff. They're doing it the right way. They're building it. Their defense has been playing excellent. Got to love Belichick out there. You got to love when Belichick and Pete Carroll show up to practices. Good for recruiting. But yeah, I think it's great to see the Huskies, not getting beaten down too hard this year in a recovery year.
What was that number for the Belichick dinner? $20,000 a plate?
Oh, jeez.
Something like that, yeah.
Did you go?
No.
Oh, come on. You didn't tell us. Come on.
I like dinner, but not that much. I love dinner, but not that much.
All right, Colin Amos answers all of your divorce questions, 1-800-DIVORCE. He's also a gambling degenerate, and I've got the list right here. We saved this before the year, and so I just want to walk through them to see where we're at as the season progresses along, because you did a number of future bets.
That's right.
So I'm looking at the list right now. We start with the Eagles over 10.5 wins.
I did not have the – did I have the – no, I have I didn't have the Eagles. Did I put that on there?
That's what I have on the list, Eagles over 10.5.
That's no good.
That's funny. You conveniently forgot that one.
That one. Yeah, when the Vikings, started coming on strong, I was wow, that was the most entertaining bet, the Vikings. But Eagles, okay, yeah, that's not looking so good.
You also had Eagles to win the NFC East.
Right.
And right now, the NFC East is pretty wide open.
Yeah, who knows?
It could be the Giants, it could be the Cowboys, it could be the Eagles, or maybe the Commanders, who are one of the surprise teams in the NFL this year.
That is, I had Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year, so I'm feeling good about that. Yeah, it was like 50-1 or something like that, some crazy number.
All right, this one's looking pretty good. Seahawks over 7.5 wins.
I like that. They're looking good, although they play the 49ers this week, and I like that corresponding with my 49ers under. But, Seahawks, you got to get back their swagger. They're 3-0, and now they're 3-2 or 3-1, 3-2. Yeah, 3-2. So we'll see what it's like. But I like that one.
Yeah, I do too. The other one I like is the 49ers under 11.5. We're currently sitting at 2-3.
Yeah, I think that one, they just have the toughest schedule. They're all over the place this season, and injuries will creep in, and it's just hard to recover from that.
Lions over 10.5. That's looking pretty strong right now.
I like that.
Dwight and I would agree that the Lions look like one of the better teams in football.
It was fun. And I'm surprised that the Lions, who do they play on Monday? They play Monday Night Football. And
they beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, they beat the Seahawks. And on Monday, they play the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cowboys, and it's -3. And I'm thinking, -3? Are you kidding? The Cowboys can't stop the run. They can't run the ball. They have one receiver and all these injuries, and it's only -3 with Detroit, but that'll probably go up by Monday.
That's very interesting. Elsewhere, we've got the Vikings under 5.5.
That's the most entertaining. That is the funniest one.
One of the hottest teams in all of football. One of 2 teams that are unbeaten at 5-0.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I was expecting J.J. McCarthy. That's why I bet it, because of the Michigan connection. But then, who knew that Darnold would show up and be, one of the top QBs, top 3 QBs in the NFL.
You just got to keep him from winning a half a game, and you're okay.
Yeah, got a few games to go. Got 12 games to go. Just got to get in the loss column on that one.
All right, you've got the Panthers over 5.5.
Yeah,
that's
Red
still
Rifle,
unknown at this point.
We'll see, but over 5.5. I still like. You never know. They can squeeze out some games. They're all professionals. These guys play football. They're good. We just got to tighten it up.
All right, Patriots under 4.5. That's looking pretty strong. That's a bad football team right there.
That is a bad. And Jacoby Brissett's going to be, carried out, unfortunately, probably in one of these games. He's just getting hit to death, and so I don't.
I think they're going to start Drake May this week.
Oh, I feel bad for that kid.
Yeah,
That's not how you want to bring in a rookie.
I read that. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be ugly for that kid. He's gonna have when Joey Harrington went out there and just got brutalized. I feel bad for him.
All right, 2 other futures. These aren't looking so good. Chiefs under 11.5. They currently sit with the Vikings at 5-0. The weird part about the Chiefs is they're 5-0, and offensively they're not clicking, but their defense has been pretty good.
They find ways to win, especially with the refs' help. That really does help them on these games.
They are the L.A. Lakers of the NFL.
Yes, that is the truth.
And the Bengals, one of the shocking results so far this year. You've got them going over 10.5, and right now
they better get on their horse.
At 1-4, I mean, they're going to be hard pressed to make the postseason.
Yeah.
Their defense is terrible.
Yeah, defense. That is the problem. I mean, look what happened this last weekend. They just told Burrow was on it, but it was just a shootout. And any team they play that can't keep up with them in scoring, they'll be okay. But not last weekend with the Ravens.
There you go. What do you think? What do you think about Oregon and Ohio State? What did you say the latest line's at, Godfather? 3.5?
3.5.
Yeah. Buckeyes 3.5 point favorites on the road.
Colin? I'm curious.
I'm waiting for the line. I don't know if it'll get down. If it hits 3, I'm going Ohio State. I just don't. Oregon's been odd to watch this season. They just haven't really clicked.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But I mean, Ohio State's had a few stumbles, but I think it'll be a fascinating game. We'll know where everybody sits after that one. But
you really think it's going to be that close, though? 3 or 4 point game?
I don't think it'll be that close. I think if the line got down to 3, I'd take Ohio State, but because I think Ohio State even coming, but it's a tough place to play. So
yeah,
it's hard to know that one, especially after watching last weekend. Who knows what's going to happen?
All right, Iowa's a 4-point favorite at home against Washington this weekend. That could be a low-scoring game right there, Colin.
Yeah,
with the way those 2 teams play defense.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if we can get around with our passing against Iowa. I mean, they're a brutal defense, not a great offense, but a brutal defense. So it'll be another test. I was at the Northwestern game and I thought, okay, we can play football, and then the loss to Rutgers, which is a tough spot, and 2 losses. Otherwise we would have been maybe in the talk.
Did you see all that data on these Big Ten teams and ACC teams having to go cross-country to play?
I didn't see the data.
Oh, the road team is not faring well in those games.
They're not covering the spread?
No.
Yeah, we had a short week, and we had to go to Rutgers and play.
Yeah.
And who wants to go to New Jersey?
For any reason.
For any reason, let alone for a Friday night game. So, yeah, that was a tough one.
All right, the futures are tough, but have you had any success on some of your side bets with the games?
No.
Thanks for asking.
I guess some success. I have won some, but it has been such a wacky season with unders killing it. The underdogs are winning outright. Like last weekend with the 49ers winning or losing outright as a 7-point favorite. Same with the Hawks. So it's been a tough one for betting. It's been really Jekyll and hiding it. So
how's your body feeling after the mountain biking accident? Are you back to 100%?
I'm back to 100%.
Nice.
The rucking helps.
I'm back, baby.
I am back. I got right back on that bike, but I took it easy. Didn't take some high flying jumps, so that makes it easier on the body.
All right, let's dive into some questions.
All right.
Colin Amos, if you're joining us for the first time, he is from Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men. 1-800-DIVORCE is the telephone number. They also specialize in prenuptial agreements. But if you're facing a divorce, call 1-800-DIVORCE. Colin will take your call and answer any questions you have to get you pointed in the right direction. 1-800-DIVORCE is the telephone number, and he stops by in studio every month to answer your questions. And here's the first one for you, Colin. He says, Colin, you may have answered this question before, but what is the best way to start a conversation about a prenup?
I think we have, but Dwight and I are both married. I want to know how you would start the conversation. You're the single guy. You're out there in the market. Let's hear how Chad answers this.
Well, based on what you've told me, is that I would just be very open and honest, and I wouldn't beat around the bush. I'd be like, hey, we both have been married before, and we're both bringing in certain assets into the marriage. So why don't we take the steps to protect what you're bringing in? I'll protect what I'm bringing in. And then what we accrue together, then we can divide that up evenly. But the stuff that you're bringing in, I don't want to touch any of that. And I want that to be able to go to what you need and your family. And I feel like it should be the same for me. And I think that's how I would start that. How's that work?
I'll sign that prenuptial.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll marry you.
In other words, make it about the other person.
I do.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, be upfront. You're getting married. Let's put all our cards on the table. Let's make sure that people know, because I firmly believe, and maybe I'm a little jaded being a divorce attorney for 30 years, but what you created before you knew the person should be kept separate. From retirement to equity in homes to your house, because especially if you have children, you need to protect that for the benefit. And so having an honest conversation. The interesting question is, some of these prenuptials actually go beyond that. They say, well, when we get married, what I create, retirement I create, equity in the house, that's all my separate property. And that gets a little more dicey to say what we do during the marriage, mine is mine and yours and yours. But that's another conversation to have. But I like your approach, absolutely.
How would it work for two young ones, like in their early 20s, who are just starting out in life, who aren't really bringing in too much into the marriage? Would there be a need for a prenup under those type of circumstances?
Unless you're talking about kind of overreaching into the future, no. I mean, like I've joked before, when I get married, if my wife wanted to sign a prenup so that she got half my student loan debt, I was all in, baby.
Let's do it, baby.
Let's sign it. But
what about inheritances or things like that, though, Colin?
Yeah, and so that's the key. You're protecting usually estates coming in, but inheritance is presumptively separate. But again, you let the states control that in the future when you get married, and then appreciation to separate assets can be considered marital, like equity and your house. That even though the house is your own name, the equity derived during the marriage could be marital, and inheritance that comes in, and appreciation to certain accounts. So it's just better if you can clean it up with the prenuptial that says, here's clearly how we want our relation to be, and not let the state handle it through the divorce process.
Yeah, so I think, heck, a lot of people are getting remarried now or getting married when they're older. I think that's a respectful thing to say, like, look, what you're bringing into the marriage, I don't want to touch that. That's yours.
Yeah.
And what I'm bringing in is mine, and, we should each be able to have rights to that. I think that's a very reasonable conversation to have.
Very reasonable. But the problem with that is that us divorce attorneys don't have nearly as much work to do when people actually think ahead and do a prenuptial. I mean, look at Brady and Giselle. They were done like with a snap because they had probably a pretty darn good prenuptial that said, here's how it's going to be handled, and let's just get divorced.
All right.
All right, Colin, here's the next one. Do divorce rates drop once people hit their 50s and beyond?
Is that because
I'm
in my 50s?
Yeah, is that because I'm getting ready to turn 50? What's going on here?
That's a good question. I would hope that people gotten wiser and smarter as they get older in their 50s and beyond. But
that works both ways, by the way. You get a little smarter, it's like, why am I putting up with this?
Exactly. So you would think that they would drop once people got a little older and wiser, or they just wouldn't get married. They would be, hey, if I'm going to get married at 50 and 60, I'm going to make sure this is worth it. Otherwise, why get married? So you would think that the rates would drop a little.
All right, next question. This one's kind of Hey, Colin, my wife is pregnant with a child that I do not believe is mine. How should I proceed?
Yeah, this is actually a very good question, because people do go outside the marriage. And like in Oregon, the presumption is that child is yours. It's kind of that old school presumption that if you have a child during the marriage, it's of the marriage.
Yeah.
So legally, the child is you're the father. So if you're worried about that, it might lead you to a divorce or a separation and then you do a paternity test and you determine for sure. but it's hard to recover from that, especially as a guy. I would think it would be hard to say, okay, I'll just raise this child, and knowing that this happened, and so it probably would lead to a divorce. But otherwise, that child legally is the husband's child, which is tough.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in that case, you definitely want the paternity test then.
I would get a paternity test right away. You can do that. You can go to Walgreens. You can go to Rite Aid. You can get your own self-paternity test and just do a saliva swab.
Wow. No idea.
Well, that one I tell a lot of guys because they come in and said, hey, I'm not sure if this child is mine. It's a newborn. And I'm like, well, just rather than challenge us and spend $6,000 in court saying, I think you might have stepped out on me and I want, which is never a good question. Talk about a prenuptial. That's easy discussion to have. But to say, I don't think this child is mine, because you know what every woman thinks when you say that.
Yeah. Yes.
So at that point, just go to Walgreens. You got, do a saliva swab, check it yourself, and then you'll know for sure. And then you can go through the legal process to.
I would have never known that.
See, the ramifications for that, too. If you say, I don't think it's mine, and then it is.
Yes.
What is she going to think about you?
Exactly. We all know what a poop head you would be if you did that. So
I never want to be in that situation to find out what would happen.
Yeah.
That's not a good scenario.
Not at all.
Yes. No, you don't. You don't.
Okay, next one. Colin, what happens if in a divorce, if a spouse keeps the home but may not be able to keep up with the payments?
Yeah, so obviously the implication here is the house is still in joint names. The mortgage, at least, is in joint names. And so we put hold harmless provisions in a divorce judgment that says the party shall hold the other harmless from any liability associated with a debt or an obligation that they're taking on. However, the bank doesn't care. They say, we have your name in blood, so if that spouse misses a payment, they're going to come after you. So you want to be able to jump on this right away, file an enforcement proceeding, and as a remedy for maybe a missed payment, you can pay that payment to protect your credit, and then go into enforcement and say, hey, I want reimbursement for my payments that I've made to protect my credit, as well as the remedy is that person now has to be forced to refinance or sell the home. So and hopefully your divorce. We always put a refinance or sell provision in there that requires that, or somebody's like a payment late, you have the right to pay that. And then it requires them to have to immediately refinance. If they cannot qualify, then they have to put the house on the market for immediate sale. So if you have some good pre-planning, good attorney as you're going through the divorce, it should help you alleviate this problem. But it's a real problem.
That is an issue. It's Colin Amos, Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE, who's in studio answering your questions. If you're facing a divorce or custody issue or need a prenuptial agreement, call 1-800-DIVORCE. Colin will answer all of your questions. My guess is you probably get this one a lot. Can my wife prevent a divorce in the state of Washington? She told me she is unwilling to cooperate if I file.
Well, wife or husband, as I tell people, you cannot contest a divorce. You can only contest what the terms of the divorce will be. So, no. I mean, if they say, I'm not going to cooperate, you file and serve them. And their cooperation, if they don't do anything in Washington, after 20 days, you can move and default them and kind of win by forfeit, and you get divorced under whatever terms you want. And Oregon, it's 30 days. So she doesn't have to cooperate, but it still can happen regardless of her participation.
All right, Colin, if I leave my house before the divorce is final, do I lose my equity?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. And
I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, and I have done this so long, and of course not. You don't, when you move out of the house, you just move out of a bad situation, a lot of conflict. You need to, get some space for the sake of you both, but you don't sacrifice your property. It's kind of like you don't lose custody of your kids because you move out. It's still your house. There's still equity. We just have to figure out divide it. And that goes for all other property that you may have to leave, and the personal property you left in the house doesn't mean you sacrifice it by walking out the door. And many times it's a good idea to walk out the door rather than end up with conflict and restraining orders and all that extra crap that happens.
We've talked about that before. Just walk away.
Just walk away.
Walk away.
We can clean it up later. Just get out of there. Well, I shouldn't say just get out of there, because moving out has significant ramifications on custody and visitation, on spousal support and things like that. So you call me first. Let me help save your life.
Yes.
Just call me first.
But if there's a conflict that could be heated, just walk away.
Walk away and go cool off. It doesn't just going out and being gone for a couple days doesn't mean you're moving out and doesn't mean you're sacrificing any rights, but certainly calm things down.
All right, Colin, if my ex-wife is cohabiting, does that impact spousal support?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a tough one because even in Oregon's odd, in my opinion, because Oregon...
in a lot of ways, yeah.
This is just one of the many on the list. But the oddity about Oregon, unlike, say, Washington, unlike, say, California, remarriage is not a automatic termination of spousal support. So, that's one step closer than cohabitation. You get married, and it doesn't automatically terminate spousal support. It's a presumptive substantial change in circumstances that allow you to go back in and say, hey, this person she married makes good income, and my spousal support should be adjusted. So cohabitation is further from that, and it's harder to prove. It's harder to prove that that person is financially taking care of the other party. They may just be a roommate. They always say they're a roommate. They're this roommate, and they're paying their share of the bills. And so proving the substantial subsidization of the spouse is the hard part, or the ex-spouse is the hard part of cohabitation. But it certainly can be a factor.
Yeah, why would someone cohabiting who's getting spousal support admit that, oh, yeah, this person's taking care of me? They're not going to do that.
No, they're not going to admit that, and they're not going to get married. The moment they get married is when the month after your spousal support terminates. And so, but in Washington, if you get remarried, it automatically terminates unless there's special provisions. Same way with California, same way with most states. But so Oregon is. I'll defend the statute. The statute basically says, well, if she marries a bum or he marries a bum, that doesn't change the fact that they sacrifice their career or their ability to earn and develop themselves financially for that long period of time that they weren't employed or maybe staying home taking care of the kids. And so just marrying somebody else doesn't change that sacrifice. But if she or he marries somebody with significant means that replace that, then that's a termination effect.
All right, Colin, can a divorce have any impact on my job or get me fired?
Well, that'd be a pretty poopy boss to fire. You're getting divorced,
We're going to let you go.
We're going to let you go.
But I think the question would be, could they?
Well, certainly they could. Most states are at will employment, so they can.
Yeah. Any reason, right?
Any reason. But, a divorce shouldn't have any impact. On that, I mean, more impactful could be something like a restraining order that can cause issues with your employment. Right. But
most companies would have no employees if they followed.
That's
this
right.
rule.
At least half their employees would be terminated. Like Thanos.
I have a lot of imagination. One of my things that popped into my mind would be if your spouse was friends with your boss.
Oh yeah.
And took his or her side, then you got a problem.
Well, you're dealing with what we deal with on a regular basis. There are a lot more things moving behind the scenes because spouses get angry and they don't think it through because many times if they're spouse support or child support and they get their other spouse terminated, that can impact their financials. So they're like taking that gun and popping on themselves in the foot on this.
They're turning the faucet off.
But they're calling their employer, this person did all these horrible things and, you should terminate him. And sometimes that can have an effect if the company just wants to distance themselves from that kind of conflict. But
making that type of call is crazy, though.
It is crazy. It is crazy. It's not good
for
yourself.
It happens, but it's crazy.
All the time it happens. All the time. There's a divorce can be pretty crazy. So welcome to the crazy town.
Yikes.
Yes.
You should write a book. Just tell me you're going to write a book when you're done.
I try to, remember all these crazy things.
You need to keep a journal.
I'm like an ER doctor, things, all sorts of crazy people come in and like, really? You got scissors still in your stomach? And what happened there? And where'd that, thing go? And
I've heard stories from ER. I've got a friend who's an ER nurse.
Yeah.
And stories about dog toys and things from people driving from all over the place because they don't want to know about anything. It's like, I can't imagine the stuff that they see on a regular basis.
Yeah, so the same with the divorce. It's just the same kind of crazy that happens, and it would shock you.
Well, it's pretty awesome. Colin Amos is in studio. His telephone number, 1-800-DIVORCE, law offices of Goldberg Jones. You can check him out online at goldbergjones-or.com. He comes in studio every month to answer your questions. If you need a prenuptial agreement, check. They can do that. If you're facing a divorce, obviously you can call 1-800-DIVORCE. Or if you are having issues with a parenting plan. 1-800-DIVORCE. Colin Amos will answer all your questions. You're the best, man.
Yeah, that was great.
Better luck with your gambling, too.
Hey, we have the rest of the season. It's only week 5. I can turn those Panthers. I think you're gonna turn it around, and those Vikings are gonna take it. I know it.
They're done. They're not gonna win another game.
They're done. 5-0. They're
from
done.
5-0 to 5-12. All right, thanks for your time, buddy.
That's great.
All right, Colin Amos in studio. When we come back, we'll jump to sports. Coming up at 5, we're going to focus in on the Ducks and Buckeyes, and we got 2 pairs of Trailblazer tickets to give away today. Blazers and Pelicans. It's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, big thanks to Colin Amos, law offices of Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE. If you need a prenuptial agreement, Colin can take care of you if you're facing a custody situation or battle, 1-800-DIVORCE. And, of course, if you're facing a divorce, call 1-800-DIVORCE, and Colin will answer any questions that you have and take care of you. All right, here's what we got coming up. At 5 and at 5:20, we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away for the Portland Trailblazers, who will be taking on the New Orleans Pelicans at Moda Center coming up on the 25th. So your chance to win will be at 5 and 5:20. And just jot this down in your mind throughout the course of the entire basketball season. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, every Tuesday on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All you have to do is listen to us for a chance to win, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers. And you can simply go to trailblazers.com for any of your ticket needs. So we got a pair of tickets to give away for the Pelicans at 5 and 5:20. And based on all the reports, it could be a very good time to go catch the Pelicans because Zion appears to be in shape. And
so
ready
far,
to rock.
so good. He might get the first 2 games of the season. You never know.
It's good to catch Zion early instead of late in the year.
Yeah.
Because you can
That's
guarantee
for
health,
sure.
right?
You're not going to catch him late in the year.
All right, we'll get to the football coming up at 5. I did want to touch on the Shaden Sharp injury that went down over the course of the weekend. I was out of town down in Arizona. You and I haven't really had a chance to talk about it, but he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a labral tear.
Right.
You had a chance to talk to the team yesterday. I mean, what can you gather about this injury? How devastating is it for the team? Is it something they're going to be able to move past? How do you see this?
Well, what I've been hearing, Chad, is that they don't consider it a serious injury. It's a very small tear. No surgery necessary. They're just going to let it heal on its own. They were actually, I was told the story about how he injured it, and it was apparently on a spectacular athletic play that he made going up to dunk the ball, and then in midair changing because he was going to get blocked and shuffling a pass off to somebody else. But in the course of doing that, he got his body turned around a bit, landed on his shoulder, and that's what did it. And I don't think they're considering it anything to worry about at this point. They believe he's going to have most of the season on the active roster. They love what they're seeing from him so far. I heard, once again, the same things you've heard, Chad. He is a hard worker. He's dedicated to becoming a better player. He's in the gym a lot, not hearing anything about his work habits other than that they're good. So they're very excited about him. And so far, so good. I would say that. I think they're not concerned about the injuries because he doesn't seem to have anything chronic. That's what you worry about. A guy who's had that bad knee or say he's got a foot. Bill Walton with, injuries to his feet, that's a real red flag.
Or more recently, a player that the younger guys will know, Zach Collins, who had the chronic issue with the foot where he kept having the same injury over and over and over again. And my concern was when I first saw the injury, I thought, man, do we have another Zach Collins situation on our hands? But you make a great point that that's not the case because it's not the same injury over and over again that he's dealing with.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, and I saw this with Jerome Kersey, Chad, when you get so athletic, when you're young, you think you can do anything.
Yeah.
And you start trying to do things that your body can't quite do. So you land wrong, you land on somebody else, you land funny on your knee or your leg or whatever. So he needs to learn some boundaries on what he can get away with doing, and he'll be safer. He has to be more safe with his body, I think.
I remember the Lakers having chats with Kobe Bryant when he first came into the NBA as a youngster because he was fearless in his attack of the basket and he was getting nicked up. And it's like, hey, it's okay to be aggressive and attack and showcase your athleticism, but choose wisely how you go about doing that so you don't put yourself at unnecessary risk.
Yeah, I saw Jerome Kersey try to dunk over the top of Ken Bannister, who was a bad guy anyway, and he decided to just stand up a little bit and spill Jerome right on his back and his head. And it could have been a devastating injury. But you just have to be careful in the league. Not everybody's going to be a good guy and catch you or make sure you don't get hurt. And then you got to look after yourself. You want to play games.
It's too bad that this injury took place right now because I was real curious to see what they were going to do when the season began with their three-guard situation with Ant, Scoot, and Shaden. I wanted to know which of the two would get the starting role.
Yeah, and I think that still would have been a question. I can't say for sure, but Shaden was playing well in camp. I do know that. But I'm also hearing that they're very pleased with what they're seeing from Scoot, that judgment's better, passing's better. He plays hard. He always goes 100 miles an hour. But they said he's actually slowing down a little bit so that his decisions get a little bit better, and he's still fast. It's like that pitcher that throws 102. If you cut it back to 98, you don't walk as many guys, and you're still throwing real hard. So I think it's the same. When you're as fast as he is, you can cut a mile or two off your speedometer.
My guess is hitting a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, not too much easier than hit one that clocks at 101.
Right.
That'd be my rough guess on that.
Yeah.
All right, so with Shaden now, we can assume now the starting lineup to begin the year would be Scoot, Ant, Ayton with Avia and Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, that seems to be, unless, Chauncey Billups said, that players will determine. Maybe somebody comes in and plays so well that they've earned it. But they're going to have to play real well to knock one of those players out of the starting lineup.
I think the frustration with the injury, it's like, oh, great, here we go again. I just want to see these young guys play together.
Yeah. There is concern, Chad, about how rough the schedule is in the beginning of the year. When you have a lot of young players, you want to guard against, the kind of attitude you can get if you go out and don't win too many of your first, say, 30 games, because their first 30 are really difficult games.
All right, to kick off the year, the Warriors. Then they get back-to-back games against the Pelicans, at Sacramento, at the Clippers, home against Oklahoma City, Phoenix, at New Orleans, at San Antonio, at Minnesota, and then back home to face Memphis and back-to-back games against Minnesota. I mean, just right out of the gate, that's tough.
Did you notice some commonality on those teams? Western Conference. All of them that you read are Western Conference, I think.
And the Western Conference is
you'd like
brutal.
To get a few weak Eastern Conference teams on your schedule early, but they don't.
Well, the good news is Atlanta's coming to town November 17th.
That's one that you could look forward to. No offense.
All right, your chance to see them in action against the Pelicans. They have back-to-back home games against the Pelicans on the 25th and the 27th. We have two pairs to give away today for the home game on the 25th against the Pelicans. We'll do one pair coming up next. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, and then we'll give you our early take on this Oregon-Ohio State game coming up on Saturday, which is going to be awesome. Right now, the current line has the Buckeyes favored by 3.5. All right, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. We care about people, and that's why we're here to deliver free Trailblazer basketball tickets to you. Every Tuesday throughout the entire season, we'll have tickets to give away to every Trailblazers home game, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers and 620 Rip City Radio. And for all of your Trailblazer ticket needs, simply head over to trailblazers.com. We're going to give away a pair right now, and we'll do a pair coming up at 5:20. And we got a little trivia question for the listeners out there. The first person with the correct answer to this trivia question will get a pair of tickets for the Pelicans and Trailblazers. Little Zion action for you, which is going to be November 25th at Moda Center. All right, here's the question. Your telephone number is 503-248-0620. First person with the correct answer, 503-248-0620. I am the first quarterback in history to pass for at least 1,000 yards and rush for at least 250 in my first 5 career games. Who am I? 503-248-0620. I am the first player in NFL history to pass for at least 1,000 yards and rush for at least 250 yards in my first 5 career games. Who am I? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. The first person with the correct answer will get a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans.
Very nice. I love the trivia questions, but I like your music questions too. Those are pretty good.
I do enjoy the music, the Name That Tune.
Mm-hmm. Those are good.
I'm just amazed at how your ear can pick up on a tune, and then instantly you're like, hey, I think I know that song.
Well, your ear can pick up on it. Not everybody's can, but Chad, you have a gift when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, I appreciate that. I did come across a video. It was the top 10 songs by white people that black people love.
I saw that. I didn't click on it.
I did click on it, and I watched it, and I'm sure thankful I did because it was fabulous.
Really?
Yeah. Not surprising that Phil Collins, Bobby Caldwell.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The music company, the record company, when Caldwell put out his album, they knew he was big in the black community, so they didn't put his picture on the album cover because they didn't want them to know that he was white. That's a classic right there.
Oh, man.
Also, by the way, Riley Moss, cornerback for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I saw that.
First white cornerback to have an interception in 22 years.
That's incredible.
I think he might be the first white corner since maybe Jason Sehorn. That's how rare it is.
Because Sehorn was playing then, and he definitely intercepted some passes. So, yeah.
That's crazy. And Michael McDonald made the list, as you might expect.
Yeah.
How can you not?
I thought you were going to tell me Michael McDonald intercepted a pass. Yeah, Michael McDonald is automatic.
There's no question about it.
Anybody else that stands out that you remember off that list?
Those were the three
They
that stood out
dominated.
to me, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great to hear the host of the show singing the songs from the artists that they like, and they were down. I just think that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Let's go out to Mark. All right, Mark, I'm going to ask you a question. We'll see if you get the proper answer. I'm the first player in NFL history to pass for at least 1,000 yards and rush for 250 yards in my first 5 career games. Who am I?
Chad, that would be Heisman Trophy winner and Pac-12 great Jaden Daniels.
That is correct, my friend. Mark,
Good
that
job,
means that you have a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans November 25th at Moda Center, so you'll get some early season Zion. That could be very good for you.
Let's go. Looking forward to it.
You got it, my friend. I'm going to put you on hold, and Michael Shacker will get all of your information. Put him on hold, Shack, and we'll get his information. Nice work. It's that simple. We are here to take care of people.
Pac-12 great. I like that little addition there. That was cool.
It was a Pac-12 great. He did win the Heisman Trophy as a
Briefly.
member of the SEC,
Yeah.
but he had one of the most iconic moments. I was at the game. They're playing Oregon on a late-night game on a Saturday down at Sun Devil Stadium, and the Ducks had closed the deficit down to 3 points, and Daniels was facing a 3rd down and 17, and for some reason, Mario Cristobal thought it'd be a good idea to have his team in press coverage.
Yeah.
And Jaden Daniels threw a beautiful pass down the sideline to Brandon Ayuk, who ran it straight in for the touchdown, and that put the game away. That was an incredible pass and one of the great moments in Sun Devil history. Horrible for Duck fans, but
Oh, yeah.
again, I put that on Cristobal. What are you doing? It's 3rd down and 17.
Yeah.
Why not just play zone coverage and keep the guys in front of you?
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do that. We're just going to let Brandon Ayuk run down the sideline and catch a ball and score a touchdown. But Jaden Daniels was great. Most people didn't know it because he played in the Pac-12, but then once he got to the SEC and started to get the national attention, people realized what he is. Now, our concern about him, of course, in the NFL, just his frame, right? Can he continue to absorb the punishment? But I've watched him, and I had a chance to watch that entire game this past weekend. He looks sensational. Accuracy.
Real accurate. Wow.
Movement and mobility, and he's got some speed when he does take off and run. But that's a guy that appears to have a pretty good handle on things. And I'm impressed, too, with the coaching job. Obviously, both offensive coordinator and head coach. But that's a new franchise with new ownership. And right now they're doing all the right things. You don't see that too often with a brand new start-from-scratch franchise getting things done like that.
You know, Dan Quinn, I think that's a winner there. And I think he might not have hit in the right spot the first time around, but he's going to be pretty successful there.
Well, coaches have a way of learning after their first job goes sideways. He took the Falcons to the Super Bowl, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed with Cliff Kingsbury, too. We've talked about him. Maybe not your best option as a head coach because he's not a disciplinarian and he doesn't want to be that guy. But when it comes to scheming plays, and look at their run game right now and how effective it is, the best thing I can say about him, what I've been told, is that he looks at the player and says, okay, what do you do well? Okay, we're going to design an offense to suit those skills, your skill set, and then we'll just go from there.
Well, what I like is Dan Quinn being a defensive guy, trusting his offense to somebody else. Hey, you got the offense, all right? That's your deal. And so many of those guys can't keep their fingerprints off the other side of the ball, even if they don't know much about the other side of the ball.
All right, Oregon and Ohio State coming up this Saturday. Right now, the Buckeyes, a 3 to a 3.5 point favorite, depending on which book you look at. Here's what I love about the game. This game is huge in terms of a top 5 matchup. It's the biggest game we've ever seen at Autzen Stadium. So it's got everything you could want. A massive brand in Ohio State taking on the Ducks at Autzen. What I love about this game is that both teams are undefeated, and yet we still don't really know that much about either team because they haven't truly been tested yet by a quality opponent. And so now we finally get a chance to see what these two teams will look like against a big-time opponent on a big-time stage.
The funny thing about that, Chad, I was thinking about that earlier today. We don't really know about either team. And part of that is because in today's college football, every team every year is going to look a lot different, even when they're not decimated by graduation. With the transfer portal being what it is, there's going to be changes every year. So we're not going to have that knowledge we got from last year. It's like, oh, man, they got 21 starters back. They did this in the bowl game. None of this stuff is relevant anymore. It really isn't. So we're looking at new teams on both sides of the ball on Saturday. We have no idea. Yeah, I've been kind of iffy on the Ducks so far. They haven't sold me on it yet. But at the same time, I don't know that Ohio State's been as impressive. And certainly the odds makers usually know something, and they're saying it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, right now both teams are 5-0, 2-0 in conference. Ohio State has played Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall. They played at Michigan State, and they played Iowa.
Yeah.
That's it. And for the Oregon Ducks, as you know, they opened up the season against Idaho. They played Boise, who's proving to be a decent squad.
Mm-hmm.
They played at Oregon State, which is having a good season, at UCLA and Michigan State. So they both have played very similar schedules in terms of quality of opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know really what either team is yet. Here's what I do like about the Ducks and where they sit. Number one, I don't buy into Will Howard at Ohio State as quarterback. I don't think that he can drop back and be able to do the things through the air to beat the Oregon Ducks. I don't. So that's why the running game is going to be critical. But here's what I love about Oregon, and we haven't seen the Ducks with what they have up front defensively maybe ever. They're great on the front line with their starters, but now they finally have some depth, a two-deep squad on their defensive line in that front seven that can go out there and compete and be able to play at a high level. And that's really what you need to be able to beat a team like Ohio State, because we know what Chip Kelly does.
Yeah.
He's a running play caller first. He's going to want to establish the run. He's going to want to control the clock, and he's going to want to try and move bodies at the line of scrimmage. If the Ducks can contain the running game of the Buckeyes, they're going to be in a great position to win that game. And that's the battle I'm going to watch. The newfound depth and talent up front on the defensive side for Oregon going up against the offensive line for Ohio State. I want to see how that plays out. And I think ultimately whoever wins that battle will likely win the game. But I'll take Dylan Gabriel over Will Howard all day.
Yeah.
But for the Ducks, the weird part about Oregon, and I think this is part of the way we've been conditioned, defensively they've been stout. But on offense, they're not quite clicking. They're getting better, but they're not quite what we're used to seeing in the past with the great run-pass balance, right? We got more from their running back this past weekend against Michigan State, which was nice, but they're still a little bit off on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and they need to clean it up just a little bit. Penalties here and there that you don't need. A few turnovers more than what you're talking about. You can't be throwing that pick six down into the end zone. Just little mistakes that against Ohio State can cut your heart out.
Yeah, 2 turnovers against Michigan State. You can't turn it over against Ohio State.
Yeah.
You got to protect the football and play a clean game. But Oregon's defense is my reason for optimism. Their defense and what Dan Lanning has done on that side of the ball with the type of talent he's brought in and the way they're being coached, that's my reason for optimism for Oregon. And the fact that they have Dylan Gabriel, who I think is a great big game quarterback, and I think he'll play with the type of calm and presence that you need at that position in a game like this. And for Ohio State, we know they got the athletes, right? Just don't let them get going on the offensive line and start to really control the clock with the run game. Yeah. I can't wait to see how that battle plays out. But in terms of games, this one's a big one right here because if you get this win, it puts you on the inside track to a playoff berth, and it also puts you on the inside track for the Big Ten title game. You don't want to lose this game if you're Oregon because then you don't have as much room for error as the season moves along. And they got some tough road tests that will come up later on at Wisconsin and Michigan. So you want to take care of business at home in this game. But what a stage. What an opportunity for Oregon to go out there and take out Ohio State.
Game day. Game day is going to be there.
It's a big, big moment.
They've had game day a lot down there.
I'll say this. I was skeptical on game day going to Cal, but that turned out to be a good scene.
That's one of, that's one of the better game days I've seen. Partly because the kid made the field goal, which was incredible.
The signage was great. The scene was great, and Memorial Stadium was packed and had a great atmosphere for the game against Miami.
Cal represented, got to say.
And they got screwed.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, my gosh.
By the way, Josh Wilcox on game day was as loose and relaxed as I've ever seen him. He's making strides in that area because he used to be so buttoned down.
He was terrific. I like Wilcox a lot.
Yeah.
He's a good one. He's one of those guys that you cheer for. I want good things to happen to him because I know he's a darn good football coach, and it's really hard to try and recruit and run a program there at Berkeley. That's not like any other place in the country. Between Berkeley and Stanford, it's like brutal.
Yeah.
Not to mention the academic standards there that are a little bit different than some other schools.
Oh, you think? Yeah.
But the ACC Conference, man, they have made their statement over the last couple of weeks. Miami's our prime team, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they get in the playoff. So if you want to beat the Hurricanes this year, you got to beat them by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
If it's close, you're going to get punked.
Yeah.
That was the absolute poster child for targeting. Here's what we don't want to see in a football game. And somehow they didn't rule targeting. Did you think that the ACC was going to stand behind them on that one?
No. I thought as soon as they look at the replay, they have to call targeting. It's a miscarriage of justice not to call targeting on that. They went in and did it. They didn't care. No shame at all. They got no shame in that conference.
Wow. I'm almost impressed. They got a little SEC in them.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, we'll focus in on the Jets. Robert Saleh's out.
Yeah.
Woody Johnson is crazy. And how much influence did Aaron Rodgers have in this maneuver? We'll get to that next. Plus, we have another pair of tickets to give away for your Portland Trailblazers taking on the Pelicans on November 25th. All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. The telephone number is 503-248-0620. We have another pair of tickets to give away for the Trailblazers and Pelicans coming up on the 25th. Every Tuesday is a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Your chance to win tickets to every single Trailblazers home game. We did trivia last time. Now we're going to make it simple for you. We'll take caller 10 right now. 503-248-0620. Caller 10 in honor of Bo Nix gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. Fire away. If you want a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans, call now. 503-248-0620. I want to hear from a Trailblazer fan. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 10th caller gets a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Pelicans. And there you go. Boom. 2 more pairs down, Godfather.
Rip City Liquidators, right here.
How surprised were you to see the news today that the Jets had fired head coach Robert Saleh?
Actually, I was surprised because I thought maybe they'd wait a week. I thought he was on that road for sure. But, that was a pretty bad loss over in London.
Well, winning teams or potential playoff teams don't normally fire their head coach in season.
Yeah.
It's a rarity for sure, right? But for the Jets, back-to-back losses that were brutal. They got embarrassed by the Vikings, hideous turnover at the end of the game by Aaron Rodgers. But the week before, you're playing a home game against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. Second road game in a row for Denver. And the Jets had extra time to prepare after playing a Thursday night game. And they come out in the rain and put up 9 points, not even a touchdown. And you lose the game to a rookie quarterback. When I saw that, I was like, what are you doing, man? It was confusing to me. And then they follow that up with another bad performance against the Vikings. The one thing I had heard, and you know this, is that Woody Johnson, the Jets owner, he was an ambassador to London, right?
Yeah.
So his team goes overseas, and they get a chance to be showcased in one of the NFL World Games, and they go over there and don't look good in a game against the Vikings. My guess would be for someone like Woody Johnson in front of a bunch of friends and, people that he respects, he probably was frustrated with the performance of his team because he thought going over there, hey, we got Aaron Rodgers, we got a good defense, we're going to put on a show against an undefeated team in the NFL. And it was the exact opposite. More frustration, more issues for the offense. And in the end, they come up on the losing end.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird. He doesn't seem to be embarrassed about how his team has played in this hemisphere. But when he goes over to England and loses one game, he's pretty embarrassed.
Yeah.
So, whatever. I think they're really lucky. And I think the reason they made the change now is in their division, they're still alive. It could be they could be somewhere where they're not. But
they're getting ready to play the Bills. You win this game coming up, you're tied for first in the division.
Yeah. So that's what they're telling themselves, and I think they're probably misleading themselves a little bit. But it's like, hey, we're right there. Let's not go any longer with a guy we don't think is a good coach. Let's make a change right now.
The weird part in this situation with the firing of the coach is it appears that their general manager, Joe Douglas, was not involved in the decision-making.
He was not a part of it, apparently, which is you can't run a business that way in sports.
That's asinine.
Yeah. You're telling the guy he's insignificant, that he doesn't matter. His opinion doesn't matter at all. So why is he the general manager? What's his job?
But seriously, how can you do that without involving your general manager? It's just the owner deciding this is what I'm going to do, and we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
Why not bring in the general manager beforehand and say, look, this is what we're going to do. Here's why. And have him fire him.
No, they're just going to decide and then call the guy and say, hey, we're going to fire this guy. You got to go give him the news. That's the way it worked.
All right, here's the weird part for me, and we'll get to Aaron Rodgers and his influence in this decision in just a moment. Robert Saleh is a defensive guy. Mm-hmm. The Jets' defense so far this year has been very productive, very stout, very productive. The defense has been good, so he did have that side of the ball buttoned up to a certain degree.
Yeah.
The offense has been the real bugaboo, especially over the last couple of weeks, and we know who's running the offense. It's Aaron Rodgers in combination with his buddy Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett is not only a horrific head coach, he's also a bad coordinator. And most people around the league believe that. But he's got a job and has that position with the Jets because he's buddies with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers wants him. The frustrating part for me is that you get rid of Coach Saleh, but the real issue is the offense right now. And because they've got Nathaniel Hackett in charge of that in combination with Rodgers, as long as Hackett is there, it's hard to see how the offense is going to get significantly better. So I don't know if you really solve the issue.
Exactly.
I agree that Saleh is not a good head coach.
Right.
And you have other reasons for wanting to fire him. That's fine. But the reality is that I don't know if they solved their immediate issues, which is getting more points on the board, right?
Getting more points and protecting Aaron Rodgers so that you can get him through the season. I mean, the guy's 40 years old. He's still good, but you can't let him continue to get hit the way he's been hit the last 2 games. Not going to work. So deal with the real issue of your team. The move to make, and I understand Joe Douglas, the GM, was thinking about either replacing Nathaniel Hackett or at least taking him off the play calling and have another offensive guy call the plays, which would seem to make sense to me if you're kind of trying to improve your team. Doesn't that make some degree of sense? I don't know.
Here's what I don't understand about Aaron Rodgers. I'm assuming that he really wants to win football games, right? Of course he does, especially with the pressure on him going to the Jets and he wants to prove everyone wrong. What I can't figure out is why, even if he's buddies with Hackett and loves the guy to death, why would you want someone who's proven to be a poor play caller and coach running the offensive side of the ball?
I don't understand it either, Chad. I mean, is it to the point where he just leaves Aaron alone and Aaron likes that? He's kind of the offensive coordinator himself.
Meaning he can do whatever he wants without repercussion.
Yeah. And he's not held to any sort of rules or standards or anything else.
And he's not going to be questioned. But
right. Throw those interceptions or whatever, 2 or 3, and not be questioned about it. I don't know. I don't know that he's that kind of guy. I don't know him. But it just seems weird. You hit it right on the head, Chad. Why doesn't he get a better OC? It would seem like it would benefit Aaron Rodgers more than anybody else.
Yeah. There's no question, because most great athletes, if they believe that they're associated with someone who's not getting the job done, they cut their losses and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that Aaron Rodgers wants the freedom to be able to do what he wants, but he would have that regardless of the coach that's in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron's in a position to dictate whatever he wants to do.
There's no question about that.
So bring in some bright young mind, and I don't know in the middle of the season how hard that is. Maybe they got a guy in their staff, but I think you have to change your offensive coordinator. You can't continue to run this kind of stuff. They're just not moving the football.
What's amazing, and we saw this from the Vikings, just like we saw from the Broncos, Denver was using the safety and blitzing Rodgers unmercifully and having great success. And what did the Vikings do? They were blitzing the safeties. It's not too often you see teams just aggressively blitz Aaron Rodgers, but they know that right now they're in a funk on offense. He can't move the way that he used to, so we're just going to continue to throw guys at him.
Yeah, don't you think, too, there's probably a little bit of a lack of trust in his receivers? It kind of seems that he's not on the same page with them.
That is part of the problem, too, is that he's going to Lazard a lot because he trusts him, but Lazard's not a difference maker at receiver.
No.
And Garrett Wilson is a good player, but clearly showing he's not one of the best wide receivers in the league, and Rodgers doesn't trust him yet. They don't have that type of chemistry. So they do lack some playmakers. That's why you look at Devontae Adams, and it's like, okay, you're all in with Rodgers, clearly, because you just got rid of Saleh, and you've got so much invested in this current squad. Do whatever it takes to go get Devontae Adams. Get Rodgers more firepower to work with to see if you can turn this season around and get on track.
Yeah.
Especially when the AFC East right now is not looking as tough as we originally thought going into the year, because Miami's just a complete mess right now without their quarterback. And the Buffalo Bills, I mean, Brian Noe hit that one
he did.
Squarely on the head. He's like, well, they look great, but who have they beaten? And then all of a sudden in back-to-back weeks, they play a couple of good teams, they get throttled. And Sean McDermott looks like a fool, too. What were they doing in that game against Houston?
Oh, that was, I don't know.
It's like you're going to go 3 passing plays from your own 5, and then you have to punt the ball to your end zone, and Houston gets a position to where they can go down and get the field goal. That's one of the dumbest. handlings of the clock I've ever seen in my life.
I know.
And then, how was Josh Allen back in the game after getting concussed? He got checked out for like a brief moment. And he's back in there. That's wild to me. You got to take better care of these players, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I think the Miami Dolphins were real curious about how that worked out because every time their quarterback goes down, he's right into that tent and not coming out anytime soon.
That was bizarre. So, yeah, the Jets are in a position to where if they could turn it around, they're still in play for the AFC East without question.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. You look around the NFL, you've got all these teams that you think are going to be great, and then the Kansas City Chiefs, not looking great yet, but doing what good teams do, and they find ways to win close football games by making good decisions and not doing anything dumb.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes continuing to prove that, hey, I can win games no matter with what type of roster we have. If I'm banged up at receiver and we got to run the football a little bit more and trust the defense, we're going to do that. And the Chiefs, brain trust, they make good decisions.
I thought they were better offensively last night. I thought it was a bit of an uptick for them.
Yeah, but still nowhere near what we're accustomed to.
No. I don't know that they're ever going to get back up to the way they were, but it was better. And the tight end's becoming a little more of a factor, which needs to happen. Kelsey's got to get the ball a little more. And I think the young kid, the speed receiver, I can't remember his name.
Xavier Worthy. He's
got a chance. With that kind of speed, he's got a chance. You can't overuse him. But, man, you don't want to let that guy get loose in the open field because he's going to run away from everybody.
Yeah, the Jets. Do you think Aaron Rodgers pressured Woody to get rid of Coach Saleh?
Well, if he didn't pressure him, at least if Woody asked Aaron what he thought, I don't think Aaron would have said keep him. I think Aaron's shown by his actions that he's pretty much not on the same page with his coach.
So I think this probably went down one of two ways. Either Woody was frustrated with his team's performance, especially after the London game, and thought, I've got too much invested in this group. I'm going to get rid of Saleh. I should have done it during the offseason. We'll get rid of him now, and I'll put someone else in there that I think can do a better job of holding guys accountable.
Well, we still have a chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he broke off a phone call to Aaron Rodgers to give him the heads up. There's no way I don't believe that Woody made that move without giving Rodgers a head up. Or it could have been a situation. There are two other possibilities. Woody calls Rodgers and is like, hey, what's going on? What do you think about the coach? What do you think about this? And they have a little heart-to-heart about everything. And from that conversation, Woody makes the decision to make a change at head coach.
Yeah.
Where Rodgers isn't calling for his firing, but he's not doing much to support the coach. And Woody can feel that and it's like, okay, I'll make the move. Or Rodgers just hit him up and said, you got to get rid of this clown.
Get this guy out of here.
This guy's a buffoon.
I mean, those remarks the week before about the
holding guys accountable.
Yeah, the cadence, that whole issue of the cadence, that was very telling, I thought.
And let's face it, Coach Saleh has been pretty dumb with his comments, right?
Yeah.
He talked about the cadence, which was bizarre to me. Like, why are you even talking about the cadence? Aaron Rodgers is the best at using the cadence in football.
It's his thing.
Yeah, that's what he does better than anyone. So I don't think cadence is the issue, Coach.
Yeah.
And then we go back to camp where Rodgers was out on that trip, and Coach Saleh called it an inexcused absence. Well, why would you say that?
Stupid.
That was dumb. Don't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
Just lie and say, yeah, Rodgers is not here, but it's been approved.
Yeah. We excused him.
No matter what the real situation is, don't call out Aaron Rodgers publicly. But he did.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure if he meant to, but that was really a dumb thing to say.
I was going to say, if he didn't mean to, he's really dumb.
Yeah. So it's weird. Coach Saleh should have been fired. I don't doubt that. But the real issue is with the offense. And the problem is, I know how dumb Nathaniel Hackett is, and he is dumb. That's not a good coach. And it just surprises me that Aaron Rodgers would want to hitch his wagon to a buffoon like Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah. He can't be doing Aaron any good. And the OC is supposed to be helping you win games, helping you look good.
Yeah.
Just he's your guy. He's your backup guy. He's got your back. I think Hackett's a lot more worried about his own back. I think Aaron's probably already saved his job.
No question about it. Yeah, because Woody is not going to make a move and upset Aaron. He's got too much invested in him. So if he wants Hackett, Hackett will stay.
Mm.
But the one thing that's weird to me is Aaron Rodgers saying that He was caught off guard just like everyone else. I mean, come on, man.
No way.
It reminds me of when LeBron was like, hey, I had nothing to do with the hiring of J.J. Redick.
Yeah. Or the drafting of Bronny.
Let me just tell you how this goes down in the NFL. Any team that has a franchise quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, take your pick. Mm-hmm. Any big-time move that's being made, you're consulting the quarterback ahead of time. Out of courtesy.
You have to. It's one of your team leaders. Everything's got to be okay there. If it's not okay there, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you make that move, you need the quarterback to understand so he can get everyone else on board.
Exactly. He sells it to the rest of the team for you.
Because if you don't tell Rodgers and he's not down with the move, guys will come to him and be like, what's up? He'd be like,
yeah.
F if I know.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. I mean, seriously.
And Woody's not that dumb. He's going to get Aaron Rodgers, give him the courtesy of making him a part of that.
Woody might be pretty dumb.
He might be.
He might be. Seriously.
All I know is that just let this be a good reminder. Never buy into a franchise that's a known disaster.
Yeah.
The Jets aren't going anywhere this year, certainly not the Super Bowl, and it'll be a miracle from God if they make the playoffs. What a train wreck they are. Not even Aaron Rodgers can overcome the history of the Jets and the buffoonery that is the front office of that team. And the general manager is not even a part of the firing of the coach.
That is so telling.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, what kind of organization are you running here?
It's a comedy show. It's a clown show. That's what it is. It's a clown show.
For sure. Circus.
It's embarrassing. And you look at the best teams every year. The Ravens would never have anything like this happen because they are buttoned up and run by smart people.
Well, there's continuity. You see that in every sport. The good teams, how long do they hang on? They find a good coach. They don't. I mean, they hang on to him.
Pretty much. All right, Shacker, we got a winner for our second round of tickets. Congratulations, Portland. We appreciate that. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk a little Bo Nix. The Broncos offense is still a work in progress, but anytime they want to smash the Raiders in the face, I'm good with that. And in the stupid 8-game losing streak to the Raiders. Raider Mike called me before the game. He did not call me after.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Well, Godfather, the Broncos, a strong second-half performance, topped the Raiders 34-18, and really it was Patrick Surtain who changed everything. The Broncos were down 10-3 in the first half, not looking good, and the Raiders had it first and goal at the Bronco 5, looking to go up 17-3. And then all of a sudden, Gardner Minshew did what Gardner Minshew does. He threw a brutal pass that Surtain stepped in front of and ran it back 100 yards for the touchdown to tie up the game. The Broncos got a field goal before the end of the half, and we're up 13-10. So that 14-point swing on the pick was massive. And then the second half, the Broncos started to assert themselves a little bit better. I thought Bo was sharper in the second half. They ran the football, and Bo was able to make a couple of plays, and they get the win. So the offense is still a long ways from where Sean Payton wants it to be. But, I thought the Raiders' coverage downfield was pretty good, and Bo did a good job of taking what the defense did him.
Yeah, it seems to me the trend is that Bo is better in the second half than he is in the first half in most games. I don't know why. Maybe he's recognizing things better.
It shouldn't be because they script out those plays. You would think they'd be on top of that to start the game.
Yeah, he's still got to make his reads and stuff, though. Maybe new defenses are throwing different things at him. I don't know.
Well, the real big story from the game came in the second half when there was a play that got flipped at the line of scrimmage when Bo came off the field, and it was the incomplete pass in the end zone to Troy Franklin where Sean Payton was upset. And Franklin, brutal drop. And Franklin did not have a good camp, and he's very fortunate to be getting the time he's getting right now on the field. You got to catch those footballs, son.
Yeah, that's an NFL catch.
You got to make that catch. So I felt bad for Franklin. Obviously, Bo could have had a touchdown pass. That would have been pretty sweet. But there was a heated exchange between Sean Payton and Bo Nix where they both were giving each other a little bit, which was fun to watch.
It was.
A heated exchange. And after the game, Bo was asked what was said, and he goes, well, I looked over at him. He said, I love you, and I said, I love you back, which, of course, was not what was said. But Peyton was asked further about it, and he finally said, well, he's still got a little Ferris Bueller in him. So take a listen to some of the exchange after the game.
Have these conversations.
It's part of the deal. Listen, last year, all of a sudden, it's just there's still a little bit of Ferris Bueller in this player that we got to get rid of. All right, talking about Bo, and I love him to death. And so sometimes it's my love language. All right?
What do you mean by Ferris Bueller?
Oh, it's just funny.
Yeah, I mean, just personality or I'm just asking.
Yeah, Ferris is kind of quirky, doing his own thing once in a while. I mean, I don't know. Did you watch the movie? Have you ever seen it? He's still got a little Ferris Bueller in him. I mean, he's got some. We
Mischievous.
Not that, maybe a little bit kind of subtly. Look, there are times where you send something in, and then I don't want it flipped, and then it gets flipped and so it's all good. He works his tail off, and I am that way, and so it just is what it is, and yeah, that's it. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I've watched the movie, but I think it's funny, and that literally, I think, explains the situation that we're just out there with great competitive intensity and fire, and we can have those conversations and move right back along and score another few touchdowns. It doesn't bother us.
Do you like that character?
Yeah, I think that movie's funny. I think it's a great movie. I've only seen it a handful of times because it's kind of old, but I think it's good.
There you go. Sean Payton basically saying, look, I'm difficult to deal with, and I'm kind of an a-hole. It is what it is.
Well, he actually said, I'm that way.
Yeah.
That's what he meant, I guess.
But my guess would be, and of course, Bo Nix just taking the advice of Drew Brees. It's like, hey, you got to give it back to him when he comes at you.
Yeah.
And so he did. And I think it's a very healthy situation for the Broncos.
Absolutely.
The quarterback flipped the play. He thought he was doing the right thing. He explained himself to the coach, and they'll have those disagreements, but that's okay. Because from that is going to come better connection and better understanding for Bo in terms of what he needs to do on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one because I understand the coach wants the play he called to be run as he called it. I get that. At the same time, you want your quarterback to have the freedom to say, I can get us a touchdown here and go get it, and the great quarterbacks all have that freedom. Now, he's not on that level yet, And the coach doesn't want him to think he's on that level yet.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if he's showing you a little bit of that independence, I don't think that's all bad.
Yeah. And I think quarterbacks need that because sometimes the play that comes in is not going to be the right play.
That's right.
And the reality is for a quarterback, sometimes you're going to have to make something happen when things don't go right.
Yeah, and Chad, let's just say he went the way the play was called and the guy got tackled or that guy dropped the ball. Somebody's going to look at the video and say, he had Franklin in the end zone wide open. Why didn't he throw it at Franklin? You know, that's just the life of a quarterback.
That's true. I think what I want from Bo right now is just run the play the way Coach wants.
Yeah.
Because I showed you the replay on the breakdown. He did miss a guy that was open over the middle. Probably because he saw the linebacker there. And
that was going to be a tough throw for him, probably, getting the ball over the linebacker.
Well, all I know is that Bo showed up wearing a retro Elway jersey. And if you want the fastest way to my heart, that's the fastest way to do it right there. He was walking up to the stadium wearing the retro Elway jersey. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
That's it. By the way, a beautiful jersey, isn't it? Those oranges.
It was amazing.
The comments on that photo of him were all, why don't they wear that all the time? You know, that shouldn't be a throwback. That should be their home uniform every year.
Yeah, I disagree with that because I don't like bright orange all the time. I don't need that in my life. I prefer the blue that they won the Super Bowl in. But I am just one person. The vast majority want the regular retro orange jerseys to be worn at home.
Well, you don't ever have to worry about them settling on one uniform in any sport nowadays.
That's never happening.
Because your marketing department would not appreciate that.
The Broncos made a ton of money off of this retro weekend for sure.
Oh,